Playing some Kiss behind your Universal logo is badass, but not so badass that we would forget to say Comcast.
A pointing things out on the screen cliche combined with a sinning something you like cliche.
They're in almost every movie.
Opening narrators? Yeah, we've noticed.
You know what else I've always noticed? Every single one of your videos has narration. And no comments, I'm not sending this video because it has narration. The sin is for criticizing movies for narrating while Jeremy narrates himself. Not sure why I had to explain that, but there you go.
Also, making me pause watching this movie to go watch Atomic Blonde 4 more times before I get back to this movie. Now I have to go watch Nobody again, too. Stop reminding me of other amazing movies, movie. I have a job to do here.
Yeah, you do. And aren't you the same person who makes references to other great movies a lot?
But I don't know if you have a bathing suit. Wait a sec, what do you call that? Across the pond?
We call it a swimming costume.
Acting like bathing suit is a better term than swimming costume. They both suck. You are neither bathing nor starring in a Broadway show. It's a swimsuit. End of.
Yelling at the screen? Yeah, I'm glad about that.
I know we need to get Colt injured here so we can get on to the self-pity part of the proceedings, but there should have been more fail-safes in place here to avoid even things like eventual sabotage-based movie twists.
Are you sure they didn't do that? And you literally admit that you're aware that Ryder sabotaged this stunt, forcing Colt to get injured, so it's obvious that Ryder would figure out ways around that.
Being this close to being done with your puzzle and going surfing instead of finishing it. And hold on, is that bottom edge not complete? What kind of maniac doesn't do the edges first?
I mean, yeah, I always do the edges first, but the sin here is for you sinning him for not finishing it. Trust me, I've seen that happen a lot, and that's mainly because puzzles are extremely hard and time-consuming.
Having the script fade in to do the Ryan Gosling credit consecutively with the scene we're currently in is a cool fourth wall break, but still a fourth wall break nonetheless.
How is it a fourth wall break? This isn't a script in-universe, and the characters aren't interacting with it. Oh, right, you literally didn't understand fourth wall breaking when you sinned the Deadpool films.
Also, the script should say Colt Seavers, not Ryan Gosling.
Except that's not a script. It's just a stylistic choice that the director wanted to make it look cooler. I mean, heck, David Leitch also directed Deadpool 2. Remember the Bond-style credits in that movie?
I'm not the hero of this story.
Guys, what if we made a movie where the hero is a stuntman? Oh, Tarantino already did that, didn't he? Yeah, but ours will be in Australia and be a whole hell of a lot more contrived. Now, that's what I'm talking about.
So multiple movies can't have similar premises? As long as the story and characters are different, I think it's fine.
If you get a chance, turn me into Tom Cruise, would you?
Name-dropping Tom Cruise in this world, so you wouldn't think that the famous actor who does his own stunts and whose name is Tom Ryder isn't a stand-in for the person they're obviously a stand-in for.
I never got the impression that Ryder was a stand-in for Tom Cruise. Like, how are they anything alike aside from the first name?
Oh man, they dragged the dirt from Gladiator into this mess.
Arbitrary movie reference.
This is the hero setter. I got 5 more after that.
The script doesn't want Jodie to find out that the new driver is Colt until after the stunt, but the fact that she walks right by the guy about to put his life on the line without so much as a word makes her an asshole.
Isn't the whole point of this movie that stuntmen don't get the credit they deserve? Because while I agree you should say good luck to them, not everyone does that.
Teasing us with this sneak peek at Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom without ever intending to give us the whole film.
I get the Dune reference. Heck, there's a moment later where even the music just straight up parodies Hans Zimmer. But how does this look at all like Indiana Jones? It's not just a fedora, is it?
They shared what's called a moon season. In real life, you might call it a fling.
So her first big directing gig just happens to be a mirror of her own recent past with the stuntman who just happens to show up? What a coincidence.
Just like it was a coincidence that Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt were in both this and Barbenheimer.
And she had so many mind-blowing, far superior experiences, you wouldn't even believe it.
Try me.
Jeremy yells at the screen cliche.
Can you get him a bullhorn? I can't hear him.
Jodie taking this shoot hostage to work out her own relationship trauma while the cast sweats in sweltering heat under masks and prosthetics is such grade A director asshole bullshit that she might as well go ahead and not let anyone sit down as well.
Still not as bad as James Cameron's attitude while making anything.
Deus Ex Machina.
Literally pointing things out on the screen.
You still doing this post-it note thing?
Oh, let's not even get into that.
Does one of the post-it notes have the name Chekhov written on it anywhere? Because I think these post-it notes might belong to him.
Ah, so you have heard of Chekhov's gun, a storytelling device that means an object is set up and then comes back later. So why is it a sin? I'd say it's really useful in movies.
At this point, it's like Memento level.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Nothing in this movie is on the level of Memento.
Even the ridiculous amount of post-it notes, which is why she referenced that movie, a movie where Guy Pearce writes notes all over himself because he has short-term memory loss, and it's the context for this scene.
One time my mom forced my dad to exercise. Do you know what happened? Snapped his ankle. First time he stepped on a treadmill. She forced it. Now he has a piece of metal in his foot. Moral of the story is you should just be you.
Funny, because I thought the moral of that story is that maybe try some lighter calisthenics first and don't start cold turkey with the treadmill.
I know this movie didn't do that well, but some of us saw it, so stop cutting out the context. Jodie was talking about forcing things doesn't get you anywhere after she got upset with the thumbs up that Colt gave her, which is why she tells this quick story.
Ryan turns the radio back up, and Taylor is still singing All Too Well, even though it was 5 minutes ago when he was interrupted. And you might say, well, what if it was a CD or an MP3? And I'd say when he turned it off, Tay-Tay was remembering all too well the feeling of being a crumpled up piece of paper. And when it comes back on, it's in the middle of a chorus. And then you might say,
this goes on for quite some time.
Colt, I thought you were dead. Why you gotta be such a bitch? Tom, I'm gonna have to ask you not to refer to me as a or a
wonder why Colt has never tried to take up acting. He's got the chops, and I could see him cast as a Ryan Gosling type.
Probably because he prefers stunt work.
Chekhov's prop gun.
Again, why? You're just listing a plot device, calling it for what it is, and then awarding the movie a sin. You're not doing your job of criticizing this movie properly.
This latte survives this way longer than it should.
And then right after this, the coffee spills.
Hey, were you in that movie Carjacked, where the guy named Jack steals your car, and then you shoot him in the hand, and you say, I hope you know how to drive stick? And it doesn't make sense because it's like, should be automatic.
Colt Seavers would be excellent at distracting an assailant with CinemaSins.
This would be a lot funnier if he didn't mix this actress up with someone else. Which he did, by the way.
That's the only one!
Is this a prop sword?
I'm a good actress.
But I don't think your acting had anything to do with this prop sword apparently slicing through a freaking metal coffee machine like it was butter.
Huh, that's a real sin. I honestly didn't notice that in the theater. There's the CinemaSins of old.
They give Oscars for that.
For stunts? No.
CinemaSins then just gives the movie a sin here. I can sort of see the thinking here, being that it's a sin that stuntmen don't get Oscars in real life, and I very much agree with that. But that's also a problem this movie is addressing. Literally, the opening narration was talking about how their work isn't noticed, and that's an issue. Heck, this scene is literally criticizing that issue just as much as we are right now.
See, movies are always trying to make things real. But it's not real. It's a movie. It's not meant to be real.
While I agree action movies shouldn't be treated as real because it is disheartening to think people could be so flippant about taking people's lives, your argument is reductive and doesn't account for the wide array of nuances that can be found across the many genres.
That's pretty dang ironic coming from you. You have spent over 10 flippin' years criticizing movies for not being realistic, so why is this sin?
Is it really necessary to parkour in every action movie?
Yes.
How long does this last?
Surprisingly, 2 hours. But you would think you could do a movie like this in 90, right? I may have misunderstood the question.
But right now, the studio are so far up my ass, I can taste them.
Tasting studios, especially after they've been up your ass.
And stuff like this is why 80% of CinemaSins' videos these days are 20 minutes long.
So, split screen, right?
Get it? The movie is doing the thing they're talking about the movie in the movie doing. Do you get it?
Yeah, we get it. What I don't get is why this is something wrong with The Fall Guy.
Well, I'm just a boy in a neon suit standing in front of a girl reminding her that Notting Hill is her favorite movie and she watches Love Actually every year at Christmas.
Watching Love Actually. That's it. I said the sin.
At least Jodie agrees with you.
Well, you know, I watched it again this year and I didn't love it, actually.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
worse than I
I'm
thought.
ruined. Yeah, it's a really sad day for Notting Hill as well.
Look, you're the director. You're gonna make the right choice.
Listen, I've spent over 10 years arguing that this is not always the case.
And me, along with about 7 other YouTubers, have been proving you haven't always done a great job on that front.
Because she's an alien, and he's a cowboy, and and that's a problem.
Look, it made almost $200 million at the box office and 44% of critics liked it. And honestly, Favreau is an underrated director. So you say problem, and I say bring back Daniel Craig for a sequel.
Arbitrary movie reference.
It was Dune's goons who dirtied my Shirley.
Asking Ryan Gosling to deliver this line with a straight face.
Isn't that exactly what made him so funny in Barbie?
Colt brings the cops up to the room not long after he finds the body, and it's just gone. If you're going to act like it is possible to clean up this scene that quickly, I'm going to need to see it. Or you're going to have to prove that Colt and the policeman were taking their sweet time and stopped for a pavlova.
We later find out that this was exactly a part of Gail's plan to frame Colt for Henry's murder. We even see camera footage of Colt walking out of this room. This implies that Gail could have had someone get rid of Henry's body immediately after Colt left.
Oh, sure, when you're talking about split screens, you do a split screen. But when you're talking about a big oneer, you do a lazy multi-cut production montage set to the darknesses I believe in a thing called love. Commit to the bit, movie.
Or how about you just let the movie do whatever it wants? This is how the director wanted to make the movie, and he has the right to do it. This is like complaining that George Lucas doesn't have the right to change Darth Vader's backstory.
Whatever's on this phone is a goddamn bazooka that'll blow a movie star-sized hole through somebody's career.
Trusting this information to the man who was your boss's stunt guy for a bit a year ago and that you only met officially for the first time within the last 2 minutes.
And there's more context cut so audiences who haven't seen this movie would believe what you're saying. Alma did this because she wanted producer's credit on Metal Storm, and Colt can give it to her.
Of all the ruses they could have chosen, how could they know Garbage Truck Team would be the most effective, or even make sense for that matter?
Why doesn't it make sense?
Engage your core.
This is a pretty hilarious David Leitch puts a dog in danger cliche.
While I'm aware Leitch didn't direct any of the John Wick sequels, those movies have dogs in danger all the time, and isn't it cool there? We see them help with beating up bad guys a lot. This dog is doing something similar, so what's the issue? You know he doesn't die like John's first dog, right?
The only real weak point in this movie is that the action just happens because it needs to happen. There's rarely a valid narrative reason. It's all cool and it's all fun. Just make it make sense.
I get what you're saying, but what I don't get is why this particular sequence counts. This scene shows the bad guys capturing Alma because she had the phone that could expose Ryder's murder of Henry, and Cole's chasing after her because he's a good guy. It does make sense.
If anyone is ever fighting me on a spinning thing, can we agree now to take a time out and wait for to not be spinning?
Ah, yes, because I am totally waiting for that in an urgent mission like this.
Colt now Tom cruises his way through Sydney to the karaoke bar without ever checking directions or GPS even once, as if he just has the Sydney streets memorized or some shit.
Okay, sure. But sin for saying this run is anything like Tom freaking Cruise.
The dead body discovered this morning at the Pendleton Hotel has been identified as Henry Herrera.
So they moved the body back after Colt and the police had left? This whole crime cover-up is a logistical nightmare.
I can definitely see that. When Gail asked Colt to find Ryder, Colt immediately suggested calling the cops so she could figure out that Colt would do that when he found Henry's body. But you still need the body there for later to frame Colt for killing him.
At a certain point, I'm going to start believing that David Leitch enjoys shooting at dogs.
I like dogs, but why is it a sin for them to be in danger? He doesn't even die in this scene.
He takes a good fall and we're proud of him, but Dressler should still notice the lack of bullet holes in Colt.
I doubt he would have though, considering the high adrenaline he would have had to shoot the gun, which would cause him to not think clearly.
Having successfully duped the bad guy, but then running into his peripheral vision instead of sneaking out behind his back.
Dude, he's carrying a prop gun that has blanks. Why should Colt even worry about that?
I never forget a fist.
Thing my cop.
Even though you cut this joke off, it's still a sin.
What the f is Jody standing in right now?
In front of the screen? Why is this question?
The movie, quote, nitpicking the title of the first Rambo movie on this phone is giving me life. Yeah, Rambo is the fourth movie in the Rambo franchise, made 26 years after First Blood. May your death be a reminder to get that shit right, asshole.
So, this joke should have earned a sin removal, right?
You might inspire a whole generation of little Jodies to pick up cameras and make their own movies.
But if all their movies are like Metal Storm, hasn't more harm been done than good?
Didn't you earlier say that Metal Storm looked really cool, even comparing it to Indiana Jones and Dune? Which is it then, huh?
It's high noon at the edge of the universe, folks.
This movie now cuts to a finished print of this scene, forgetting that this scene won't exist in the final cut of Metal Storm, and so this version would have never gone through the finishing touches, meaning that what we are seeing never existed, and we must now reckon with our own ability to see the mystery of the ether world beyond, that opens a threaded gateway to parallel universes.
Jeremy doesn't understand scenes being shown for the benefit of the audience cliche.
I know they're only faking it so they can trap Ryder in the car with Colt, but this is not enough blue screen here to get full coverage for the the VFX shots. I'm questioning everyone's dedication to pretending to make the pretend part of this pretend movie.
You just admitted that you know this stunt is only done to trick Ryder into confessing his crime. That should have stopped you from saying this.
They shall not pass! No, that is not how a movie quote nerd would deliver that line. You have to put the spaces in and go full Ian McSee. They shall not pass! I'm right here, Hollywood. I'll have my agent send you my consulting fees.
Cool, but Ian McKellen is spelled with a K, not a C.
Shoot him! He's a stupid stuntman, no one gives a
Whatever warped sense of reality is going on in Hollywood that they built this character off of. Because I assure you, no normal people think this way. Seriously, do people just drive around LA hitting stunt performers with their cars and throwing milkshakes in their faces?
Okay, you earlier mentioned that you agree movies shouldn't be realistic. So why don't you apply the same logic here? Gale's inspired by how greedy Hollywood can get, and they're exaggerating it to get the point across. I mean, heck, they are willing to resurrect dead actors with CGI, no matter how creepy that might be.
He's one of the best stunt doubles I've ever had!
Ryder has spent the entire movie trying to injure or kill Colt. Where the hell is this change of heart coming from?
Ryder has always appreciated Colt's ability as a stunt double. Yes, he's tried to kill him before, but never as direct as literally pointing a gun at him.
It's high noon at the edge of the universe.
Spoiling your final scene in the trailer. F***ing movie trailers.
Hey, this is the same studio that always puts the ending of Fast and Furious movies in their trailers, so sitting realism.